Hi, my name is Kirsten, and this is your video on how to make Instant Pot Lebanese lamb and pecan stuffed pitas using frozen meat in the Cooking from Frozen class. So this is week 2, night 2 of Instant Pot Basics, and just a little extra bonus video for you so that I can explain it in a little more detail without having to make class go any longer than it already is. So I have one, two, three, four cameras here plus the laptop, and I'm going to use the buttons to switch between them. First thing I want to do is show you the ingredients, and I'm not sure which camera that is. Okay, so the ingredients for this recipe include chopped pecans. Mine are a giant Costco bag. So chopped pecans. We'll need some water, which is going to be this cup here that I'm going to set. We'll need a cup of chopped onion. Got that right here. And our spices, cinnamon, cumin, allspice, and some red pepper flakes, crushed red pepper flakes. You'll need a pound of ground lamb. I buy it whenever I see it on sale, and I just throw it straight in the freezer because I know I can use it from the freezer to make this. You could also use ground beef. You could use ground bison, ground venison, ground turkey. You could use ground pork. You could use ground impossible plant-based meat crumbles, the uncooked kind. All of those things would work terrifically. But for this thing, we're using ground lamb. Okay, you need ketchup, salt, and pepper. And then we'll talk about the pita breads later. This is just to get ourselves started, okay? I'm gonna switch cameras. And sweet. First thing I'm gonna do is hit the saute button and walk you through right here. You see the little light in the center, that's normal. If you want a higher setting, you push saute button again and it says more. That's what you would use for searing like a roast. If you were going to do a roast, searing a roast, or bringing something to a high bubble. Hey, stop, we're not ready yet. Push it again and it'll go to less. Less is good for caramelizing onions, having something at a very, very low simmer. But for most purposes, for browning ground beef, for sauteing onions, or in this case, toasting pecans, push it one more time, the saute button, and it gets back to normal. That's what we want. Okay, we move again. Pot cam, we're not ready for you yet. And yeah, sure, we'll do this. So a lot of times when I'm working on this, when I'm getting started with a new recipe, I will come into the kitchen and grab my Instant Pot off the radiator, put it on the kitchen island, plug it in, hit saute, and then I go walking around the kitchen grabbing my ingredients. So know that these things take time. It takes a while for the saute setting to go from on, which is what it's reading right now, up to hot, which is what it means when it's on saute. So we'll switch. Okay, now keep your eyes peeled over here for it to say hot. And I'm not going to grab all the ingredients I need because I did already grab those, but I will grab a measuring spoon because that part I didn't get. And I want to do a little bit more chopping. Let's set this over here. Because part of the reason that we're using pecans for this is to stretch the meat so that it's got some more protein but not as much fat. And another great way that you can stretch meat is more vegetables. I mean, we got some onions in here. They are for flavor. They're also for bulk. You can also use mushrooms. I've got some mushrooms, so I'm going to chop up some mushrooms and add them to the onions so that I can kind of stretch out the meat. But the other thing I want to chop up is the pecans. Oh, we'll use this. So I've got some pecans chopped. And I will grab a handful more. And this is still reading on. It's still preheating. And honestly, there's no sense in standing around waiting for it. If you could be letting that work while you are gathering your ingredients. This is a Pampered Chef chopper. Got it a long time ago. It's super useful for nuts. I don't really use it for anything else, but I do use it for nuts. Okay, that's done. And let's start chopping. You go over there. Let's start chopping the mushrooms. We don't need any more onion. I think that's good. So I got this recipe from, oh, and I can switch to ChopCam. Got this recipe. No, I'm going to keep it over here. Because this is not a how to chop mushrooms class. This is just a, I'm trying to chop these small, is what I will tell you. This is not a fancy mushroom chopping thing. I just want them to kind of blend in. I'll go halvesies. I want them to blend in with the meat. Because what I'm going to use it for is just blend in. Haha. All right. This says hot. So I'm going to dump in my nuts and kind of spread them out in an even layer. Get my handy dandy flat-sided wooden spoon from IKEA and use that to stir the nuts around. And you are aiming for 3 to 5 minutes until you start smelling nuts. If your nose is not working, you're going to kind of look for a very subtle color change and pay attention to the timer. Because my nose does not work very often. And so you get used to things where you would have smelled. You go up, you rely on your other senses, like making sure that it's timing wise, stirred often. And then also rely on people who do have functional noses. Ask them, hey, how does this smell? I'm going to give it another minute just to toast these nuts. You could air fryer nuts if you had an air fryer. You could do them in the oven. But if you're already going to get your Instant Pot dirty, then why not? Why not save on the cleanup? Okay, I'm going to call that good. Take this out. Pour there. Pour our nuts out. Now, it still is saying saute. We're still working on saute. So I am going to add the water, the onion, the cumin, the allspice, the red pepper flakes, and the frozen meat to the pot. And I think I'm going to do that by throwing in the onion and these mushrooms first. And then add the water and the rest. And it's not going to kill these to sit and be chopped a little while longer. And those to start their simmering. That will not affect anything at all. So I will finish running my knife through all these things. Yeah. And say, boop. Anyway, this recipe came from a cookbook from the library. We're going to talk about library cookbooks in the class that I have not yet taught. but you will have seen the class before you see this video, more than likely. So your library is an excellent source of recipes. It really is. And I now stretch meat by adding nuts to it. And I had never done that before I got the idea from this book. So it's a good idea. All right, almost done. One wee little mushroom left. All right, so to the onions and the mushrooms, we need our cup of water, which is over here. And then I'm going to switch the camera to the down in the pot can. There we are. That'll smooth everything out. And I'm going to dump in all of my spices, starting with the cinnamon, half teaspoon of yew, this is a good blend. I was making the other day at work, I was making cilantro chutney, cilantro and mint chutney, which is an excellent dipping sauce if you're having a beef or lamb sambusa. That's cinnamon, cumin. We're going to switch to the smaller one for allspice. Use allspice for two things: Lebanese lamb and Swedish meatballs, which is interesting. And then the teeniest one of all, just a tiny little pinch of crushed red pepper flakes. All right. Now let me open up this package of ground lamb. Do check and see when you are opening your package to make sure that you are not getting the little, if it's in a frozen container that has a little absorbent diaper thing in it, make sure not to pressure cook that. All right, frozen ball of meat. Sticking that in right here. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel and close and lock the lid after I get my hands clean. So I'll start by putting the lid on while I have that camera, and then I will switch and make sure I have my lid. Okay. All right, close it, make sure this is sealed. And then I'm going to switch cameras to the button cam, which is not this one, hey. And it's not that one. And it's not this one. It is this one. All right, hit cancel. And then I'm going to go ahead and cook it high pressure for 5 minutes. So I'm going to pressure cook and use the down arrow key. And it's at high pressure. All right. Don't need to do anything else. Hands off. All right. The beeping has started, so it's going to start cooking. And while it is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and clean up a little bit, pause the recording, clean up a little bit, and then we'll be back here right before it tamps. Because as you know, I can tell you it's 3 o'clock right now on my watch. I'll tell you what time we start, but it's not going to take, we're not going to be done at 3:05. It's going to take time for that water and the meat and everything inside to get up to temperature, to boil, to create steam to be unable to come out of that little tiny hole on the top of the thing, which creates the pressure. And then and only then will that 5-minute timer count down. One thing that I did do that I didn't tell you I was doing, but you could see, I poured the water in, I kept saute going. So part of the water was hot enough to start steaming when I put that lid on. So that can kind of shrink down the time it takes for your pot to come up to pressure, but it's still going to come up to pressure whenever it is darn good and ready. Okay, let me hit pause and we'll be back in a flash. Okay, we've got about a minute left, and so I'm gearing up. I just want to do a little more chopping. I got a pepper here because I have one. Okay, first thing we're going to do, quick release. That's going to make a big sound, and this sound will cut off a little bit. So bear that in mind. I won't be talking if I keep this over. Okay. All right, for the record, this this little pin that we could be watching. One more. No, that's going to be, oh, there we go. The pin that just dropped here, sealed up, enough steam had built up within to stop the pressure for the steam from coming out to start increasing the pressure. That happened 5 minutes after I put the lid on. And then a minute after that, the timer started in front. So what does it look like after it's pressure cooked, this hunk of frozen lamb? Remember what's in here was lamb and the spices, the onions, and the vegetables, mushrooms, vegetables. And take that over here. All right, so here we go. Looks like this. I'm going to hit cancel from the pressure cooking and hit saute, cancel, and saute, just like I did before. And I'm going to break this up. And yes, you can see it is not yet fully cooked, but it is actually fully thawed. So I'm going to break this into smaller pieces. And while it is sauteing, that's going to finish cooking the lamb and evaporate some of this extra water and season it all up. But I mean, this is 14 minutes after I put the lid on for timing purposes. 14 minutes after we're at the stirred up point. And a few minutes after this, we'll be serving. Just so much faster than if you were doing from thawing your frozen meat, even thawing it in the microwave would still take some time. All right, now that I've broken up the big lumps, I'm going to go ahead and add in the pecans that I chopped earlier. And then ketchup, secret ingredient here, ketchup, salt, and pepper. You could probably use tomato paste, but I got ketchup, half a teaspoon of salt. and then a few grinds of pepper. All right. So we're gonna just give this a stir and let it, I'll keep on breaking up the pieces into smaller clumps. And we keep stirring until it kind of looks like ground beef, like hamburger, like taco meat. Taco meat would be a good one. It'll be seasoned, but it won't be, like, I don't want it to be soupy, is what I'm trying to say. Now I'm gonna let that go for a moment. While you guys are, let me switch cameras. That's the part that I have to remember, is the ability to switch cameras. Now, since this recipe comes from the book Spinner in an Instant, the things that this woman wants you to serve it with are yogurt, Greek yogurt, and pita bread. And me personally, I would want a little feta cheese happening in there. I'd want something green, some chopped cucumber, some, something else to go with. Pickled turnips would be lovely also, speaking of vegetables. But, I'd want a little bit more than just some yogurt and some pita bread, because for me, I just want a little more. So I want to show you the way that I like to serve this, which is another way that you can have more vegetables and less meat. And it's an appetizer. It's a snacky appetizer for sure. So I am going to start. I'm going to start by flipping to the other camera because I can. There we go. And give this a stir. I'll show you what this looks like again. But what I'm going to do is, it's something I came up with in the summertime when we were getting a lot of vegetables in the CSA. And a lot of times I would eat it when my husband was deployed and I just didn't feel like cooking. And so I would have something that the kids felt like eating, and then I would eat something that I felt like eating. And a lot of times in the summertime for me, that meant taking a little bit of hummus, flopping it in a bowl, kind of spreading it out to the edges of my bowl or plate or whatever, depending on what you are. This is just a little tiny snacky snack. And I need nothing. I would throw some chopped vegetables, cucumbers, zucchini, tomatoes. I have to do the tomatoes. Cucumbers, zucchini, tomatoes, something colorful with a crunch. Peppers. I've got an orange pepper that I was just slicing up here. And I think I should add a little bit of tomato to this, since I've got some. Yeah. And I'll do 2 big tomatoes for now. Avocado would be good. Oh, wow, yeah. That would be pretty lovely. Let me kick the camera over so you can see down in here. It's at a good boil. Ka-ching, ka-ching. All right, we'll switch. Right. That is the problem. Is the problem with these cameras over a nice boiling thing. But I'm going to let it go a little bit longer while it's boiling, while it's rolling, boiling so nicely, because it will continue to cook for a bit more. It's electric, so it's not going to cool down immediately. So I don't want it to be 100% dry when I fully take it out. But I need it a little bit drier than this. All right, let's switch over. Let you, well, I don't know. You can't really see because I'm glowing. Yeah. So I'm going to keep on chopping. Keep on chopping the tomatoes. But I chop a bunch of vegetables, put a bunch of hummus on a plate, chop some vegetables, add a little bit of this meat because it's just a great flavor. Add a little bit of this nice seasoned ground meat, and then scoop it all up. You can scoop it up with pita chips. You could scoop it up with, I'm today using mini non-dippers, these Stonefire ones. But the crispy pita chips would be lovely. Non-bread, pita bread. Our producer Will makes their own pita bread, makes the dough, rolls it out a little bit, cooks it in a skillet, and Bob's your uncle, boom, you have pita bread. So pita bread is one of those things that you could have. And the pastry chefs at Chowgirls make our pita bread for our mezzo platters all time. All right, scatter that around a little bit. Now we'll check this, give it a stir. I'm starting to see meat poking up over the top of the liquid, which tells me that the liquid is starting to cook down. So I'm going to kick over and let you see that. Try and let you see that in next cam, chop cam. Starting our layering here, working on it slowly. One here. All right, let me try blowing. Still hard to see. Ooh, maybe the recipe. The recipe is not going to blow it away for you. Perhaps a cutting board. Ah, there we go. All right, the cutting board fan. So as you can see, you can start to see some of the meat sticking up at the top of the liquid, which lets you know that the liquid is starting to go down. It's not as soupy. And I will, ooh, there we go. It needs still a little bit more because I want to really make it fairly dry. And now I'm going to change cameras again. So you can see this is what I'm doing. Ah, for you, all for you. Okay. Don't do that. Just do you. All right. So what else do I put on this? I will do a little bit of feta cheese. Crumble off a crumble. Feta cheese, the meat. All right, good. I have my dippers, have my feta. I just need the meat. I'll give it a stir. Now I can start to see a little bit of the bottom of the pot when I draw my flat spoon through. So let me kick over the camera and show you that, which is going to be 1, 2, 3. 1, yeah, this time with feta. 2 over there. 3, all right. So you can see that there's even less liquid. And a little bit a little bit of, a little bit more meat, Sean. There's a lot of meat, Sean. So I'm going to give that another minute. And I'm going to give that another minute and tell you two more things that I'm going to put on this after I add the meat. Well, no, save those for later. Another thing I like to do with this, and actually an excellent inspiration for this dish, was if you've ever heard of Shish, the restaurant on Grand Avenue in St. Paul, they have a breakfast from Jerusalem, which is roasted potatoes and some hummus and some tabbouleh, and I think it might have eggs. I'm not really sure. A little bit of, probably has a dab of yogurt or tzatziki or something. And it has some feta cheese, some olives, a little bit of fruit. Yeah, I don't know. They have a couple of different breakfasts. One of them has eggs. And then it has a little bit of seasoned ground meat that is on it. You know, it's giant platter, some vegetables, some grains, protein source from the beans, from the cheese, and from a little bit of ground meat. And when I had that, I was like, oh, that's delicious. You know, I could be using this meat in that. And so sometimes we'll use that. We'll have breakfast from Jerusalem for dinner and roast the potatoes either in the oven or the air fryer. Sometimes a runny egg on top of all of that with hummus, with tabbouleh that I make or buy. No shame in this game. All right. I'm thinking this is probably good. I'm going to next camera way over to here. No change on that. There. I'm going to hit cancel. Boom, there we are. All right, let's see this. So I have hit cancel and it's going to bubble for, it's going to keep on bubbling for a little bit longer. That's why I tell you it is not like, it's not like a gas stove where you turn it off and it's done. It's electric. It's going to keep on feeling that way, but you can see a lot more silver from the bottom of the pot. So that lets you know that the liquid is mostly on. And I'm just going to let this stir it until it stops doing its bubble action. And it is quieting down now. But still, you know, that's, I think, something that it takes a while to learn to cook. Learn when cooking is when to turn the heat off, because you know that things will continue to cook for a while. And some things it's no big deal to overcook, other things you could overcook. So I think that is down enough. Yeah. Okay. So that is what we want this to look like. There's a little tiny bit of liquid in it. Slowly eases in when I push that away. Just kind of enough of a sauce to keep it saucy. But if you were going to throw this like on a taco or in a pita bread, it wouldn't be running out the sides because it's just continuing to thicken up. All right. I will next cam. Yeah. Okay. So how am I going to serve this? Yes, you could put this in a pita with a little bit of yogurt like the recipe calls for. But you could put this along with roasted potatoes and some tzatziki and some tabbouleh and a little bit of feta cheese and olives and kind of have a nose. This would be wonderful in a mezza platter. Yeah. But what I'm going to do, my favorite way, is I've got my layer of hummus with a little bit of chopped fresh vegetables. What I have on hand right now today is red onion, tomato, and an orange bell pepper. Cucumbers would be terrific with this. So know that for a little pop of color. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of this on top. So a little bit of meat. And then I'm going to add a little bit of spice, my favorite little spice. And this is the time where you use the good olive oil. So I've got za'atar, and will I go up to this cam? Well, got za'atar. I've bought this from Kowalski's. I bought this from Penzeys. I have never looked for it in Cub. Probably they have it at Byerly's. And I've never looked at Hy-Vee. No, but I did. First place I saw it was at Kowalski's. You could buy it in bags in grocery stores that sell a lot of spices. International grocery stores that sell a lot of spices will have it in a giant bag. But I like to sprinkle that on top. And then I like to drizzle the good olive oil. When you have the good olive oil, this is the time to use the good olive oil. This is from my cousin. I don't know where he got it, but it's in a metal canister, a black metal canister. So that means it must be fancy. And then scoop it up with a warm pita. You've got, oh, and some sesame seeds would be good on that. There's some sesame seeds in the za'atar, by the way. Sumac, thyme, white sesame seeds, and salt. Yeah. Scoop it up with a pita. It's a lovely snack. Add a side of roasted vegetables would also be terrific. It's just take over. You're off. You're done. In there. Hot. Okay. So this my favorite way to eat this Lebanese lamb and pita, lamb and beef pita. It's the recipe says it serves 4. It's a pound of ground beef. But if you are using it in sparing amounts and or stretching it out with maybe some additional pecans, more mushrooms, something like that, you don't need more than, maybe a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup total for a personal serving, just to get that flavor and a little hit of protein. So I'm going to take some of this and freeze it. I will throw it in once it's totally cool, I will throw it in a freezer bag and Lebanese lamb topping and put it in the freezer. And then I will bring it out when I feel like having a mezza platter and I want some meat with it. If I want a little bit more protein, then I will bring that out. I'll thaw it and just warm it gently and sprinkle it on top of hummus and go to town with it. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. That is class. And yeah, 3:34. So eating less than a half an hour, because I've been sitting here for a while, less than a half an hour after I put the lid on from totally frozen meat. Amazing. Okay. Thank you.